you pointed out how people kind of pass over some of these tools and tactics that are easier, that raise the baseline states in the positive direction. And I think part of the reason that is a lot of businesses and business owners are hyper motivated to solve a problem now. And some of these, like raising baseline states and some of these tactics that help team members to feel seen and safe, they take time. Because if
Mhm.
somebody's in a state of fight or flight, it's not just you snap a finger and now they're, behaving and operating and feel safe and all these things. And a lot of those kind of, I guess, less focused, more people second, business first strategies for management and pushing people that kind of, like you said, just get rid of the negative states and move people to a baseline. Those don't solve what needs to be solved for growth to happen over time and improve. It just like cuts the problem. It's like if you don't have good soil and you're not doing what you need to be like having regular good soil, and you just come in and dump a bag of soil that you had to pay extra for, that then loses all its nutrients immediately and goes back into a negative state. It's this thing that businesses do where they don't prioritize the future for the now to try to get the short-term value, but then lose out on the most value of if they would have invested the necessary steps and actions in the necessary places and people in their business.
Yeah, there's that. That's really insightful, and it kind of brings me to two different points on that. It might seem in the moment that focusing on well-being isn't going to change anything about the bottom line, and it seems like it might affect things in the future. But when we're when we have a higher baseline of well-being, we have more dopamine in our systems. And dopamine does more than make us feel good. It turns on all the learning centers in our brains. It makes us more creative, intelligent, energized, more motivated. Really interestingly, they took dopamine out of rats and it wasn't even motivated to travel a body length and a half to press a lever to get food. And food is the most fundamental drivers that we have. It's necessary for survival. So if we don't have dopamine in our systems and we're not motivated to even survive without dopamine, what chance do we have for our far off goals that we have in the workplace? By having more dopamine in our systems, it turns on all the learning centers in our brain. So we're going to be operating at our optimum. So it really does lead to results in the moment. Doctors are 19% more effective at coming up with a correct diagnosis in the moment when they're in a positive state. Sales teams are between 27 and 37% more effective at sales when they're in a positive state. And it makes sense. We're at our best when we're in a positive state. But like you mentioned, some of these tools and techniques that might seem like they take more time in the moment. A great example is coaching. When we ask people for their opinion rather than tell them what to do. When we ask people, we empower them and they come up with the answers, and they're far more likely to believe in themselves in the long term, and they're far more likely to become self-sufficient and not need you, because we can only develop or grow or perform to the level of the leader's competence if we continuously rely on the leader. But if the leader coaches and asks questions rather than directs continuously and tells them continuously what to do, then people start to think for themselves and believe in themselves and be far more effective. And in the moment, it might seem like that takes a bit more time, and it might take a little bit more time by asking rather than telling. But in the long run, we have a far more effective team, and the team grows, and they're not relying on the competence and capacity of the leader. They're relying on the competence and capacity of an entire team, which is far greater.